Welcome to Decades of Horror, the classic era.
You both know the rules. No biting below the belt.
This is episode 178, recorded May 19th, 2024.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Jeff Mohr, and on this podcast we cover the good, the bad, maybe even the ugly horror films released since the beginning of time through 1969. In each episode, we'll discuss the monster, spirit, psychos, and villains that have haunted movie-going audiences since the dawn of film history. With me this week are my incredible co-ghosts. First up is Chad Hunt, mi compadre, co-host on Decades of Horror of the 70s and 80s, film producer, director with Wreak Havoc Productions, and a comic book artist and writer. How you doing, Chad?
I'm doing fine, Mean Gene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also with us is guest host Michael Zatz, or Mikey Blue Steel. How you doing, Mikey?
I'm a little blue today. The weirdest thing is wherever I went today, people kept asking me to keep signing the book. And I said, not today.
I'm confused.
That's okay. So am I.
I got it.
I'm glad you got it.
Hint, perhaps he had to sign it in
blood.
Ah,
Wow.
we are talking about a movie. I told you I'm a little twitchy, which means my fingers are fast and my brain is slow. Also joining us,
Bad combination.
Yay. That
return of
That guy.
OG classic era Grue-Crew host. OG classic era Grue-Crew host. Quit shaking your head.
Who's sorry he's here now?
Joseph Perry,
After that
aka
intro.
Taste the Milk of Chocolate. Joseph, it's awesome to see you, man.
Well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. It's great to be back here in Insert City. So I'm very excited to be back, and it's great to meet Mikey for the first time here and to see my old friends Jeff and Chad. It's been a long time, and I'm thrilled to be back. But like Chad said, I may be questioning that in a few minutes, but
Yeah,
I doubt it.
definitely. It's been a couple years, maybe even.
Yeah, man. We're glad to have you back.
Wow,
We started this
that
thing
puts it in too much perspective.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I had black
You're
hair.
gonna get
when
me
you
all
guys
misty.
started. Yeah.
Alrighty. So it's great to have you back. And in honor of him being back, we allowed him, or we requested that he pick the film. So we will move
That's
forward.
what you get.
I was going to say, and now you're not coming
reason.
back for another 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Just want to remind everybody that Decades of Horror and Gruesome Magazine are partnering with Playdown Media on several other channels. Classic Era is on the Classic Sci-Fi Movie Channel, the Classic Horror Movie Channel, and the Wicked Horror TV Channel. And in fact, today's topic was on the Classic Horror Movie Channel. So check us out there, and you can get some good movies. I watch stuff there all the time. I just float in there and scan the decades and find stuff that I've never heard of and watch it and then go, oh, now I know why I never heard of that.
Now I know.
But there's some good ones, and they're like this. I mean, this has the classics of horror in it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So check it out. You can subscribe for a modest fee and see everything that they offer without commercials, or you can just subscribe without paying the fee, and you'll get ads and you'll miss out on the premium content. All right. Spoiler alert. I forgot to make a big deal about this when we did Santa Sangre. But we're going to talk about this movie like you've already seen it. So if you haven't, you should go. If you care, you should go watch it first. Anyway, here we go. I don't recall that this has a little bit of a twist in it, I guess. On this podcast, we start by giving a few basic details of the film. followed by each of our first impressions of the movie, the taglines that they use to try to market the movie, and then we move into a general discussion of the cast and crew and whatever trips our trigger. So our topic today is Curse of the Crimson Altar, or as I always do it, the Crimson Cult. But apparently this is the original title, and it is listed like everywhere as Curse of the Crimson Altar, except on IMDb and except at Kino Lorber, where you can get a Blu-ray under the title The Crimson Cult. Released in 1968, it was directed by Vernon Sewell, written by Mervyn Haseman and Henry Lincoln, from a story by Jerry Sowell, loosely based on a story by H.P. Lovecraft. And that story was The Dreams in the Witch House. The cast includes Boris Karloff, Christopher Lee, Barbara Steele, Michael Goff, Mark Eden, and Virginia Wetherill. So production of Tigon, British Film Productions, distributed in the U.S. by American International Pictures. It was filmed in England at Grimsdyke House, which served as Crackstead Lodge, both the exteriors and interiors, and some other on-location shooting in Middlesex, Hertfordshire, and London. For filming dates, it said January 29th, 1968. Now, I know it took longer than that, but that's...
Yeah, they did a lot in one day. Oh,
in and around that time, yes. It was released in the UK in December 1968, and its initial release in the UA was April 15th, 1970, but then it saw a wider release in November. Synopsis. When his brother Peter disappears, Robert Manning pays a visit to the remote country house that his brother was last heard from, while his host seems outwardly friendly and his niece more demonstrably so. And you see my eyebrows raise. Manning detects a feeling of menace in the air with the legend of Lavinia Morley, the Black Witch of Greymarsh, hanging over everything. Yeah, so that
boy,
picture
is stinky.
From the end of the movie, where
Eddie Parker, probably, or Eddie Powell, excuse me, doubling Christopher Lee, no doubt.
Probably, but Christopher Lee's character traversing the roof of this Crackstead Manor or Crackstead Lodge in the flames, surrounded by the flames. All right, so this was chosen by our good friend Joseph Perry. So could you go first? Why did you pick this? When did you first see it? And what are your impressions?
Well, I chose it because it's all about the listeners, and this is a listener request. And I also thought this was going to be a first-time watch for me. However, not long into the film, I realized I had seen it before, but I have no idea when that might have been. So I'm going to count it as a first time in a long time watch. And my first impressions, unless I missed one of the requirements here, my first impressions were it's quite interesting. And from the opening sequence, I've belonged to a lot of cults, but never one as quite as wild as that one. And cults have certainly changed in horror cinema over the decades. This was quite the Dionysian group, to put it mildly. And these days, they're very, you know, what white robes and living in extremely rural areas. This really made me miss good old swinging London in the 60s. So yeah, let's see. First impressions. Well, it's not a great film, but I don't think it's a bad film at all. I had a fun time with it. And how can you not have a fun time with a cold open like we get? And a lot of the other sometimes unintended hilarity, but also it's great to see Karloff in one of his last films but owning the screen when he's on there, and Christopher Lee supporting his old friend there too. He's doing a fine job. He's not just phoning it in like others might. So I think I'll leave it at that because we've got a lot more to talk about in details later.
Okay. I appreciate it. And in fact, it was suggested. It was a suggestion from both Scott Wells and Mikey Z.
Mm-hmm.
I suggested this.
And one of them, it was one of your
That's
long
the man to
lists of
blame.
stuff.
Oh, okay. Fine.
And one of you called it Curse of the Crimson Altar, and one of you called it the Crimson Call. So, all right. So, Michael.
Okay, sir. My first time I saw this was probably the mid-70s, I guess, when it was broadcast on TV, heavily edited. And then I hadn't seen it for 4 or 5 decades since, till about yesterday was the next time I saw it. And I've seen it 3 times since then. And I must say that, as everyone has said thus far, it's not the greatest in the world, but it is the last film that Karloff did in London, in England. So that has some historical merit behind it.
Mm-hmm.
He plays an interesting character in it. He doesn't phone it in, as Joseph has said. And it's of its time, let's put it that way. And, it's okay. It's not a great film, but it's not a terrible film. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. All righty. Well, Chad, did you see me looking at you when he said he watched it 3 times?
Yeah, and I looked at him just exactly the same way I looked at you when you told me I watched something 8 times after the fact. I like this movie a lot. It wasn't like you guys have said, it's not a great film, but it was an interesting little film to watch. I mean, it had it wasn't boring. It wasn't to me, it wasn't anyway.
No.
There were a few scenes that actually made me laugh out loud, and probably, I don't know if they were intentional or not, but one at the beginning when they stabbed the girl on the altar there, and the guy that the goat keeper or whatever he was, he grabs the goat and pulls the goat closer to him, like he couldn't believe that they actually stabbed her. And the utter look of disgust on Boris Karloff's face every time the lead man would take a gulp that brandy down so fast, and it was just
fine
like
stuff.
He was like, "Oh my God, you just killed that." That made me laugh. But it was good. I enjoyed it immensely. It was I liked the actors. The acting was good. They kept it moving, and they were interesting to look at, and interesting characters themselves. So it kept it any sort of exposition scenes or expository scenes interesting still. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Christopher Lee was great as always, doing what he does best, playing the guy that's trying to kill everybody and bring it into the world somehow or another. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely, and I'm glad I watched it. Never seen it before or heard of it before this.
Excellent. I had heard of it, and as far as I know, I hadn't watched it. And I think I bought it on a sale. Like I say this all the time, these Blu-ray houses will send out emails on going out of print or half price sale, blah blah blah. So I think I bought it then, figuring we would do it sometime. So I just started watching it like a week ago, a few times. I'm not gonna say, I think 3, but the thing that I liked a lot about it was sort of the place in history and the idea of. I agree with whoever else said it. Karloff steals the show, as far as I'm concerned. He just demands the screen. Christopher Lee was less imposing, but his character was kind of trying to fade into the background. I felt like he was sort of appeared to be an offshoot. So this Mark Eden who comes in, the Manning, he's looking for his brother, and so he's going around to all these different people, and Christopher Lee's one of them. And later in the movie, you find out he's key. And Barbara Steele. So you gotta love that. And then Michael Goff, uncharacteristically,
Underplays.
Can't scream at the top of his lungs.
It must have killed him that he couldn't go over the top with some of the lines.
It was a great performance. And apparently it says introducing Virginia Wetherell, but I think she might have been in something before this, but I thought she did very well. All righty. And we have a few other people that duck in there. So let's talk about this. This is basically, as you can tell by the title, your witchcraft and whatever. So now.
Yeah, whatever.
Now it's that time that we all love.
Time. The best segment. Yes.
It's the best time of the show where we do taglines with Chad, as played by Taste the Milk of Chocolate.
Oh, you threw me for a loop there. All right, here we go.
They have to put my face up there because
you say he acted like he got a can hit to the head there.
This is in the contract.
That's what brings the big numbers in.
Yeah.
And then they get pulled a swerve. Here we go. The High Priestess of Evil, a monstrous fiend with an overpowering lust for blood. Terror fills the night, as she stalks her prey. The Master of Evil in his last and most shocking role.
That's interesting.
The world's... Thank you.
It's not,
the world...
but it's an interesting quote. Yeah.
It's not true, right? Exactly. The world's masters of terror in a new blood curdler. That's great. I haven't heard blood curdler in ages.
Yeah, anybody
start using that in my reviews.
I don't think my blood curdled, but it's okay.
Mine was like cottage cheese.
Mine is lactose intolerant, so it doesn't curdle.
My almond milk curdled. Come face to face with naked. Oh, fear. Come face to face with naked fear on the altar of evil. We come face to face with naked something else later, but
I think isn't that a Discovery Channel series?
Naked and Afraid they have.
What obscene prayer or human sacrifice can satisfy the devil god? That must be a different version than I saw. I didn't see a devil god.
Different movie altogether.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if you watched our last episode, Mr. Dr. Satan, you did see only he was King Devil. You actually got to see the devil. Well, thank you so much, Joseph.
Great job, Joseph.
And that's
thank you very much.
Taglines with Chad is played by Joseph Perry.
He does a good Chad. I'll have to give him that.
Thank you very much.
Not bad. Well, this movie has a lot of posters.
I would like to comment on this one, if I may.
Do it.
Something I forgot to say at the beginning. This was at one of the local walk-ins when I was a kid in Stockton, California. And I loved horror movies already, but there were certain ones that I was too young for. And this description, even though I knew Karloff and liked him a lot at that young age, this one with the word obscene prayer, human sacrifice, and devil god, this one made me kind of scared of seeing this one for a few more years. So the poster did its job in, frightening a young kid, but also they lost at least one ticket sale because it's so effective.
Well, and we're carrying the probably not naked, but it's hard to tell what she's wearing. It's like lingerie, I think. Bra and a skirt, maybe. I don't know. I can't tell, but
the print there didn't turn me off as much as the fact that Karloff looks like my Uncle Bill. And I didn't want to see it.
That's a great look. It's a great look.
It looks like he's saying, I told you to get off my lawn, didn't I?
Or I told you not to pay for a ticket, didn't I?
I got to practice that look. So that's, I believe that it was released in the U.S. as a Crimson Cult, and the very limited nude scenes, as far as I could tell, were cut. But I'm pretty sure what we saw was the uncut version. But then its original title was Curse of the Crimson Altar. And this bottom poster there is the only poster I could find, or only thing that looked like a poster. Now the one above is a Spanish one that's basically saying the Curse of the Red Altar. But I kind of like that. It's
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, it's great.
It's
At least it gives you an idea of what's going on in the movie.
It's got Lavinia with the vodka in her hand. Hooded guys in the background from the.
Is that what they call it these days? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and the blonde on the altar. Yeah. Anyway, it's okay. It's okay. And then I saw a bunch of these where they just called it the Crimson Altar.
That's great. The skull guy got one shot in the film, but he made the poster. He must.
Yeah.
It was a prop too, right? It wasn't a character.
Yeah, it just stood there.
Yeah, I think it was a dummy.
Yeah.
They revealed. All right.
Looks like
another great
Karloff has a mohawk in the bottom. Yeah.
Let's say that again.
Karloff looks like he has a mohawk down in the bottom right.
Oh, yeah. It does. The background. Oh, Lord. And I believe this is French, but the actual literal translation of that is the Black Masses, not Black Horror, but okay. But I like that poster.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's got the Karloff and Lee faces together, sort of split.
Who's the giant face? That's
right.
I don't know.
I was thinking, whose eyes are those? Are those supposed to be Lee's or?
I don't. Not quite, right? Not quite Lee's.
Right. Yeah.
Probably just a generic something or other that they found.
Big face.
Because
with the,
I'm sure the woman is not in the film either, I'm sure. So.
Well, yeah, she has Lee and Karloff as nostrils. If you're looking at that photo, the big image behind her has Lee and Karloff for nostrils. So breathe in the
giant
hollow.
Back tattoo.
Then we also have.
For a minute there, I thought this was a Dell comic.
I did. I did too.
Wow, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
it's a
looks
UK,
like one of those Doug McClure posters from the 70s, the mid 70s.
88 films, but I kind of like the. Well, it's kind of what they've done with Marvel posters more recently, with all the faded, sort of neon colors. I kind of like that one.
I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And you might thought we were done, but we're not. That's the Blu-ray cover for the Kino Lorber.
Lavinia looks bronze in that one.
And chain.
She's got like a upside down spider on her head in that or something.
Yeah.
It's really just pheasant feathers. And the Super 8.
Love it.
Yeah.
Now we're violating all. Now we're following true movie conventions. Karloff in a red robe with a hood up, which never even comes close to happening.
No.
And I would love to see the Super 8 version, because you figure it's about 4 minutes long, and you can't get the exposition dump at the end. Yeah. So how can you? I'd love to.
I'm sure there's a lot of sign the book in it.
Right.
If you don't sign this book right now.
I don't know why, but that always reminds me of that Cheech and Chong routine. You
Sign
must
the papers.
paper.
Right.
I cannot sign the papers. You must
You
sign
broke
the
my hand. You broke my fingers. I cannot sign the papers. Yes.
All right. And a couple of landscape ones. Spanish again, the altar of red, or the red altar, I guess. And I don't know
Sangre,
if this is like
isn't sangre blood in Spanish?
Yeah, altar of blood. I'm sorry. Yep, you're absolutely right. And then the bottom one, I don't looks like it's a more modern
Yeah, it does.
thing for, like a re-release or a showing somewhere, but it's pretty cool.
The altar de sangre. Look at that main photo. They don't want to push the horror film. Come for the eroticism.
Well,
right. Yeah,
there was
eroticism.
this is a typical lobby card. There was like half a dozen of these with different pictures in there. I don't know why I picked that one. I guess it was subconscious.
Nor do I, Jeff. Yeah, exactly.
And I think we may have actually killed off those. Now, we talked about this. Karloff, there was the fact that Karloff was in this. Oh, you know what? I want to start with these guys because they're just not right. When there's ceremonies going on, I just sort of jokingly called these guys the Green Light Gang, but whenever he thought he was having a nightmare and he was in this black ceremony, it was always the green light.
Well, in the cold open,
anyway,
you wonder what you're getting yourself into, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
Because it's pretty zany, pretty outlandish. And
I don't think it was that cold, if you know what I mean. But anyway.
Oh yeah, not that cold, but
starts out with like it's like a hip slick, like something from Dracula 72 AD or something, right?
Right, and then the rest of the film gets pretty tame in comparison. I mean, we see a woman being whipped and being stabbed, although somebody's blocking, a character is blocking the actual knife insertions because we can't, for some reason, we can show all the pasties and whipping we want, but don't show any actual
titillation,
blood.
but you can't show violence. Yes.
Right.
I was waiting for the tassels to start spinning around, but they never did.
They didn't. It was more like a spiral pasty.
These guys look like a postmodern punk rock band or something.
Yeah,
well, I like the one guy is the goat tender.
I love the goat tender. He loves his goat.
Anyway.
When they did the stabbing, and he drew the goat closer to him, like, "Don't look away, Harvey." It's horrible.
And then the
very Aleister Crowley opening.
Yeah.
The woman. Well, and the woman in the middle and the top is the chicken keeper, I guess. Yeah. And you go down.
Right
to that bottom shot, and they're having the ceremony, and she's apparently sacrificing the chicken, I think.
Yeah.
And I believe she's supposed to be nude, but she's got more hair than anybody I've ever seen, except maybe King Kong
or Yoko Ono.
Yeah. Holding that chicken up over the crimson altar.
And I didn't see
Marty.
Marty
To be
Feldman.
nude as a theme in this film.
Well, I think that guy in the middle, next to the goat tender, he's the Marty Feldman character.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But anyway, enough of the fun. But it's, we start off with his. We have a ceremony where his brother is being given this book, and you have to sign the paper. He's pretty willing about it, right?
He seems so, right?
Yeah.
I guess I would be too after I saw somebody getting whipped to death. Okay.
That's nothing. So then I think I had another one.
All just a big wedding, and they just wanted him to sign the book. you know,
Right.
guest shows.
So Christopher Lee, one of the masters of terror in this movie, and I love that the shot at the bottom is when he has what was her name, Eve. His niece actually, strapped down and partially disrobed, getting ready to sacrifice her because she has spoiled the family name and disappointed the master. I think something along those lines. Disappointed Lavinia. So the whole plot, it actually was in that synopsis I did, is these people in this village burned Lavinia at the stake, and she cursed them all and all their descendants. And so now they're going out. She's going out after them to kill the descendants. Yeah, Christopher Lee. So it's the story. So Barbara Steele, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's on the commentary on the Blu-ray, being interviewed or talked to by David Delval, and it's really quite funny. They don't talk a whole lot about the movie. They do some, but she makes a big point of going, "Oh, that jacket." She like called that. Like every time she saw him, he was wearing that jacket, and she said it was, I can't remember, it was his favorite jacket. And why do you wear that all the time? Well, it's my good luck jacket, you know. So anyway,
what's that?
That's what he wears.
Piece of personal wardrobe of his.
According to her, she had lunch with him, and that's what he was wearing. Now it could have been lunch during the shooting, I don't know. But if you also notice, she doesn't have any scenes with either Karloff or Lee, which is a shame. And she lamented the idea that Hollywood or the movies seemed to think that she didn't really need to talk or emote in any of her movies. She just was put up there as this witch character that, you know, she's got a few lines in this, but there's no real, you know, acting requirements.
No real heft. Yeah.
So that's too bad. There are some scenes where Karloff and Lee are on screen together, but they don't really, I don't think they really interact. You know, so here's Karloff and Steele. How'd they do? What do you think of that?
I thought he was okay. You know, he was a little grumpy in the beginning, you know, a little misogynistic actually toward Eve is her name. Yeah.
Right.
About the brandy, you know, don't waste it on the women or something like that, he says. You know?
I found that extremely hilarious. just kidding.
And
well, there's a lot of that.
Barbara Steele, how can you not like Barbara Steele? You know, she didn't make the Blue Man Group, but you know, she made up for it.
She also got turned down for the role of the Green Woman in Star Trek.
That's too bad. And I wondered if the green makeup was based on the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz.
I'll bet it was.
Why
that would
green?
Go with the, you know, that would go with the green lighting in the, as you call them, the green room characters or whatever. You know,
and I thought the color green had a lot to do with witchcraft and stuff like that. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but I always, because I'm no expert on witchcraft, but I always thought the color green had a lot to do with the supernatural and witchcraft and stuff like that. So maybe that's why.
That Hulk behind you has something to say about that. So, Karloff.
Hulk, not witch.
Witch Hulk.
Karloff. Karloff, his character is very interesting here because we're obviously led to believe that there are some nefarious intentions behind his character, and then we get a twist at the end, which we'll save for a bit later in the broadcast. But and you know, he's just fun to watch on screen, and it's when you read or hear or understand the pain that he was in, and you know, he had arthritis, and that's why he was in the wheelchair the whole time. And then there's a scene at the end where his chauffeur, or you know, I'm not sure exactly what that guy's role was, but you know,
like
he was
his handler almost. Yeah.
handler, right? Kind of rushed him out of the room.
Yeah.
You know, when they're all escaping the fire.
Which
You
explains
can
a
just
lot
see-
to me, because he got around very quickly in that wheelchair in the woods. I'm like, how did he get there so fast and stuff? You know,
Mhm.
All weather tires.
what was his name? Basil, right? What's his handler's name? Basil, I guess, was pretty good. Had good motor skills. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I thought, you know, he gave a really fine performance. It's what we'd expect from Karloff, but not simply what we would expect. You know, he was still doing his best at that time and that age. And so that's one of the highlights of this film for me. And Barbara still, like what everybody mentioned before, she's really good, but limited in what she's given here. But when she has screen time, you know, she makes the most of it.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at her.
Yeah, she's captivating for sure. Every time she's on screen, you don't look away.
And as for Karloff, he came off grumpy and he came off, you know, he frowned a lot and this and that. But we won't know. We don't know until the end, with this flip that he, you know, we are expected to believe he's the bad guy and he's the evil one behind everything. So I guess he kind of has to act a little bit, you know, weird and everything. But so it's like the leading man got character. Him and Eve are walking upstairs, and he goes, "This looks like a place Boris Karloff would live in." You know,
right?
I thought that was pretty funny.
That was a good meta moment. Yeah.
Yep.
Call back to like arsenic and old lace, something like that. Yeah.
Well, apparently at some point,
and he had a good tan.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he had that type of skin, so you know, Eastern descent. So yeah,
Indian. It was from India. The director said that right before filming was to begin, he was told that Karloff was uninsurable because of his age and his ill health. So they decided to recast with Christopher Lee. Then he was told, well, we do have to pay him. Apparently there was a contract already regardless. So they needed to go ahead and use him. So they had to rewrite the entire script to fit Karloff and Christopher Lee. So Karloff is the good guy and Lee is the bad guy. But you couldn't tell he was the good guy, right? At first.
No, not
until later.
No, there weren't really any signs. No, not until the exposition dump at the end. Yeah.
And then you knew Lee was a bad guy of some sort the whole time, because he's claiming not to know where Manning's brother was. And, you know, as viewers, we know not to trust Christopher Lee villains.
Exactly.
Yeah, he lies right away when they're talking on the phone about his brother.
It's always Christopher Lee.
That's always Christopher Lee.
And Barbara Steele was, I'm glad she's in this, but not much.
Yeah, you wish she'd have had a little bit more meat to chew on than that.
So our other two kind of leads are Virginia Wetherill and Mark Eden. And there he holds a bodkin in his hand, which is
bodkins.
Everybody's holding that bodkin. Must be the thing to do in the 60s.
Well, apparently they had, I didn't know this, but it sounds like it could easily be true. They had two that were exactly the right, and one of them would have a spring-loaded or retractable blade. And the witch hunters would use it on the witches. Typical test for the witch, they'd stab the witch with the one that wasn't, the one that was retractable. And then because they didn't bleed, that proved they were a witch. So then they could burn them at the stake.
Just like drowning. If they come back up, they were a witch. Or they weren't a witch. If
or
they
were a
drowned,
duck.
If they floated,
they might have been a duck. Yeah.
A witch. They're a duck.
Get the bodkin.
But I thought that Mark Eden, I mean, this was 1968, I guess, when it was produced.
yeah.
I thought he was like auditioning to be James Bond. It was right around that time.
It kind of seemed like it. Now
that Eon Productions was looking for a new star in that role, and a lot of the things that were in the script and his actions sort of leaned toward the James Bond type of character, you know, betting the girl or whatever, and being so attractive to all the females. It was interesting. Like, he patted his secretary, I guess, in the beginning on the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck is? I mean, nowadays, you know, we don't frown. We do frown upon that behavior, but you know, he's very friendly with the female set.
He's quite the wolf, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right, and when he invited her to sit on his lap, she immediately did. There was some, you know, they had some type of relationship, obviously, and then this libertine, you know, goes and meets the niece, forgets all about the secretary.
He seemed to be enjoying the party that was going on too. You know, he wasn't standoffish about it. He was really getting into it, let's say.
I have a question.
That party was something else.
Yeah.
What the hell was going on there?
That was, I think,
it was a G-rated version of
a Warhol party or something.
It was like a G-rated version of a Russ Meyer event or something like that. You know, it was,
oh my god!
It's like a
lot of psychedelia going on there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, nobody seemed to be using any drugs, but they sure were acting like it. I mean,
right. That woman that was pouring champagne over her body and it was trickling down, and the guy was like licking it off of her thigh. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
The guy,
the painting.
The top of the woman's breast.
Yeah.
She jumps up immediately and just starts pouring champagne on her breast. Like,
right.
Is this what I'm supposed to do next?
Well, the one at the beginning where he, where Mark Eden, Robert Banning, he drives up to the gate to this big house, Crackstead Lodge, he's trying to figure out how to get out. And he sees this woman running, screaming. And at first you think she's nude, but it turns out she has this like pink full body leotard on.
Yeah.
And these cars are chasing her and she's screaming bloody murder. And he runs out to save her. And then they all start laughing. Like that was their big, oh, it's just a game we play.
What did he say? Well, you're going to take us all on? And he goes, I hadn't thought of it.
That guy was funny, man. He's up in his face like this, like, were you going to take all this on? And then he walks away and he comes right back and gets right back up in his face again.
Well, it's weird. Then he says, oh, hey,
he's on camera.
Yeah.
How do I get through the gate, get to the house? Oh, you just go around back there.
No harm done.
Very weird.
Right.
And then
we'll see you at the party later. Yeah.
He gets to the house and he sees the party. And Eve is apparently immediately attracted to him. She runs right up and tells him where her uncle is. But he is talk about being misogynistic or chauvinist. How he treats Eve. He does it like he knows her for like 5 minutes. I guess it was the swinging 60s or something. I don't know, but
it was.
Hey, I suppose that bed holds two people.
Yeah, and then there's another scene where they're saying good night, and he pulls it to her, gives her a big sloppy kiss, and she goes, "Your room's over there, bud." You know.
Yeah, he forces her to into a clinch, and she's
that's
fighting.
What real men did in the 60s.
Supposed to be funny, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, I guess, back then. And then to even top off,
because
his
believe
behavior
me, I
is
tried it in
rewarded.
the 70s and it did not work.
No.
As well.
And his behavior is rewarded then. You know?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, he had to bleed for his later reward.
It's the dance of seduction.
Oh, that's
true. On the bed over there. He goes and gets in the bed and gets under the covers and everything.
Right.
Yeah. She's fixing his hand, and while she's turned around, he jumps under the covers. Oh, your room is so much more comfortable. I don't want to have to.
Yeah.
They were bad lines. They were just bad, you know. He could have just
worked for him.
Anyway. Yeah, they did. So I thought that from my point of view, and they said I'm usually not into when the U.S. cuts things out of movies, but I would have been totally fine if they'd have cut out the nude scenes, or even it's not really a sex scene, but when they're in bed together, it didn't really have anything. Okay, so they slept together.
Well, it established they're
developing
their
a bond.
relationship later on. Right. Exactly.
But I don't.
In a way that seemed like it was written by a 48-year-old dude that had never been married or had sex with anybody before in his life.
Yeah.
But he's writing a screenplay about a
I could put a nude scene in here, right? Right. Yeah.
Right. We could show a woman's bare bottom, right? Yeah.
So
then he's bleeding all over
That could have been the producers too. We need
could well be
nudity here. Enough with the body shoots, which again show up in with the Green Gang. If you cut that quickly, one of the later dream sequences. I think I saw 2 bodysuits in the same shot. And Jeff, it might have been the long-haired woman that you were referring to earlier, but I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, the green cover a lot of it.
Well, that brought things to a dead halt.
Nudity usually does.
I've told everybody.
Usually it's the Auga moment. Yeah.
This was an Auga. Wait, is that a bodysuit moment?
Yeah.
So I did, just to kind of. Well, I wanted to mention
the Vicar.
Rupert Davies. Yes.
Played by Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro is Rupert Davies in The Vicar.
The Vicar.
Hello there, this is The Vicar. How you doing, Vicar?
You talking to me?
He has quite a bit. He was in the BBC series Quatermass 2 in 1955.
Well, he was also in a Hammer Dracula film, I believe, right before this, if I'm not mistaken. Is it Taste the Blood of Dracula, or Dracula is Risen from the Grave? It's one of those. Don't recall which one.
Dracula Risen from the Grave, and the Witchfinder General.
Right. Yeah.
Brides of Fu Manchu. He got in on.
I think he wants that one off his resume, or CV. As they say.
Wow, he actually played George Smiley in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is a guy that we should, and he does have a familiarity about him. He was also in Frightmare. Is that a Peter Sasdy or Pete Walker film?
Basil there with his gun should have been up for James Bond. He saved the day around there, as far as I'm concerned.
But this is the kind of movie where every time a character's introduced, you wonder, are they a member of the cult? You know?
Right.
And think about it too. This came out the same year as Rosemary's Baby. Think about it.
No one can convince me he was shooting at a bird high in a tree.
Yeah, because he was shooting straight forward, and unless the bird was sitting on that guy's shoulder.
And I think that was, to further make us think that Marsh was up to no good.
Yeah.
But when you look at it later, why did he shoot straight at Manning, right? To scare him.
They'll forget about that by the end of the movie. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So the 2 guys credited with the screenplay I saw wrote a bunch of Doctor Who episodes, Irvin Haseman and Henry Lincoln. And Lincoln, I've only mentioned this because we recently did the Ghost Galleons on 70s, was a expert on the Knights Templar.
Which
author and Templar historian. Yes. Yeah, like I think I don't know if they wrote together or not, but they both are listed as have writing like 17 episodes of Doctor Who in the 60s.
Doctor Who?
Doctor
Who?
what? Doctor House.
Didn't know he was Asian, to be honest, but okay.
Jeff, you missed the whole chance there for us to do an Abbott Costello bit.
I know, but I couldn't think of the right response. So
You should have said what?
I could have got who's on first.
I could have
Dr.
said
what?
I don't know.
I told you my brain is slow, my fingers twitchy today. That's feed Joseph the punchline. I don't see a lot of stuff
came up with the drum riff.
Michael Warren was in. I thought he looked kind of like young Oliver Reed when I first saw him.
He's not drunk enough.
Oliver Reed was in.
Maybe that's
movie.
why he was aiming at the bird straight ahead instead of up in the air.
He was seeing Tweety Bird flying around.
He's got 15 credits in IMDb.
Did
So
he
anyway,
speak in any of them? He was mute here.
So comments about the story or general things about the actors, or it's just a weird choice to me that you've got these guys in this film together, and if you had to rewrite it, why didn't you write more scenes with Lee and Karloff and Steele interacting?
I mean, I know they were in Corridors of Blood, I think it was called, maybe 10 years earlier.
Right.
And
right.
they had some very good interaction in that film.
It is. That's a great movie, though.
It is a very good film, more historical than a horror film, but Lee is fantastic in that. It's Resurrection Joe, I believe his character's name is.
Yeah. We've talked about that before. He does. He's like it's like a Burke and Hare type.
Burke and Hare, yeah.
He's selling bodies to Karloff, who's a doctor that's trying to invent. I think he's trying to invent anesthetic. Is
like anesthesia, yeah.
Anesthesia.
But Lee and Karloff were good friends, and I'm sure they both rued not having more substantial time together on this film.
Well,
a lot of that might be the. Oh, go ahead, Joseph. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that we don't know how much time they had for the rewrite. It might have been Karloff's on his way over. We need to.
Oh, you're defending
after all.
Yeah, defending the people that can't defend themselves.
Exactly.
Good for you, Joseph.
If they had 17 episodes of Doctor Who, these guys were no slouches, right?
That's true.
But
that's true.
Doctor
maybe
Who?
they were under the gun.
What?
Why?
No, Doctor Who.
What?
No, you said who? Doctor Who.
What who?
That's a Dr. Seuss book. I'm talking about Doctor Who. Anyway.
On a total tangent, I saw a cartoon today of Horton the elephant in a concert crowd, and the caption was "Horton hears the Who."
Nice,
good one.
Anyway,
this is the second Karloff film that I'm aware of that he appeared in a story based on H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Die Monster Die was the other one.
Right.
And this one, and it's always amazing to me, and it just shows, I guess, how I don't know why, if it was too horrific for the time or whatever, but no one ever stuck to the original story as much as they did, but they would base it on those stories. Not saying this is bad, but it's just something. While I was watching it, I just wondered,
Right.
I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that, but
I don't know why they did that either. It's hard to film a Lovecraft story, and as you go through time, the people with, how do you come up with the unspeakable, indescribable horror? Do you just never show it? That's the way Lovecraft always talked about it. That's what.
But Dreams in the Witch House was a little bit different than the old gods, but I don't know.
And there's a fair amount of color out of space in
Die Monster
Die
Die.
Monster Die. I mean, the
Yeah, there
storage
is. There
and
is.
stuff and the weird things in the basement.
Speaking of colors out of space, we had a lot of kaleidoscope imagery in here that we should probably mention.
Well, that's the hippy dippy 60s.
Yeah,
exactly.
Hippy trippy.
Before I forget, I think one of you mentioned, I think Joseph might have mentioned the wheelchair, and that Karloff really kind of, he demanded that he got out of the wheelchair in a couple scenes because he wanted to look standing. One was when
he discovered them in the
one is when somebody shows up at the house and he stands up and talks to him for a minute. And then when he goes to sit down,
I think Mark Eden comes to the house to talk to Eve, and Karloff gets up to speak with him. Yeah,
and then at the end when he's kind of chasing after.
But he looks very frail in that shot, though.
And the first time I watched it, I'm like, wait a minute. How the hell did Karloff get off? Because those people ran out. But I had to replay it and look and see. Oh, he's sandwiched,
like leaning against the door jamb or something like that.
Well, there's all four of them are going out the door at once, and he's kind of sandwiched between them. I'm sure it was a double, but and then when they wheel him down that ramp out of there, anyway. All right, back to the kaleidoscope.
Why did Marsh? Oh, okay. I'm jumping ahead again.
Okay.
The kaleidoscope. I basically just wanted to introduce that topic and see what others thought about it too. But at one point, it really did look like they filmed a kid's kaleidoscope.
Yeah,
it did.
It brought me back to my childhood memories. I remember having a lot of those as a kid growing up and looking at the sun and looking at it through the kaleidoscope and getting all kinds of weird images and stuff.
It's so weird. Little did we know.
Which explains why
high tech.
Here, yeah.
Well, it explains a lot about my present state of being. Yeah.
No, I thought about that. In fact, right from the very beginning, they had those sort of I don't know if it was like magenta or pink purple lights around him, kind of flashing and rotating and stuff. And I'm like,
well, there was the lampshade that had the the colored image, not images, but the coloring on it. The hypnotic lampshade,
hypnotic lampshade.
Well, we just did, 80s, we did Santa Sangra, and the one guy hypnotized women just by holding up a knife and flickering it in her eyes. But anyway, movie magic.
Speaking of hypnotism, that's one of the exposition dumps that gets thrown at us at the end. But they did the courtesy of the title screen explaining hypnotism at the beginning, and then it didn't come into play again until Karloff.
Drugs were related to the hypnotic ability of the individual as well. So,
and as matter of factly as he just stated it, he goes hypnotism.
Right. Well, it's like right back to the act. I think they tried to have Karloff say as many words as he could that had the word ism, at the end of it, like eroticism, hypnotism. What the heck am I doing here, ism?
Well, and apparently it was kind of tough on Karloff because it was in winter when they were shooting, and you could see those outdoor night scenes. Blowing frost in his breath. And apparently they were worried that he caught a cold or pneumonia or something, and but he seemed to be okay. A couple of reviews that I thought were interesting. Roger Greenspun from the New York Times said Karloff himself, cadaverous and almost wholly crippled, acts with a quiet lucidity of such great beauty that it is a refreshment merely to hear him speak old claptrap. Nothing else in the Crimson Cult comes close to him, though there is Barbara Steele in Greenface playing Lavinia, a glamorous 300-year-old, and a monumental cast that lists no fewer than 7 party girls and several sacrificial virgins. He referred to that party girl number at the beginning. But
you gotta have at least 7 of them at the party.
The New York Times. I think Kevin Thomas of the LA Times said, delight for horror fans, which Karloff with Karloff in top form despite the infirmities of age. And considering his health, it's amazing because you hear no weakness in his voice.
Well, I did hear a few times, I believe, when he was in that scene you had mentioned earlier with Mark Eden, and you could hear when he's speaking, he would breathe a lot.
He was
you could hear
breathing very deeply.
Very deeply, yeah. But it's amazing. The men love to act, and God bless them for it.
Can we talk about the fire on the rooftop scene?
Yes, we can.
I guess it was just a sudden jolt that Morley became Lavinia. Was he Lavinia the whole time, or was this had something happened just enough in the process of almost killing his niece that Lavinia was able to overtake him? And really, what was the point, because she was dying in the fire anyway? So I don't know, that was a bit confusing to me, and I'd like to hear what others thought about that.
I was confused, but I was like, hypnotism.
Right, maybe we're all hypnotized.
We're all hypnotized into thinking that he is she and she is he, and we are they. And
that was a weird. I guess they did it just as a one last chance to be able to show Barbara Steele in there before the movie ended.
Right. Well, and rather than having Lee screaming to the heavens while he burns up or something,
it would have been more interesting to have Eve have an evil look on her face and at the end. And
she's possessed by the spirit of Lavinia. But that rooftop scene, the rooftop scene reminded me of the ending of Curse of Frankenstein, another rooftop scene where Lee is a flame.
They couldn't get him to go.
He did do this though.
Yeah, he did.
He did fan the flames away. That's going to help.
Yeah, right. But that what immediately came to my mind when Lee's on the roof with the flames about. Yeah.
And when he's doing this, why doesn't he just become Lavinia earlier, rather than subjecting himself to pain?
Yeah. And as much gas as he poured everywhere, I thought the whole building would.
Holy cow! Yeah.
Well, the other thought I had was when the fire engine or fire brigade, as they're called in England, showed up. I thought Benny Hill and his gang was going to come out of there.
Thank you for bringing that up, because here we are in the swinging 60s, and that, I don't know what fire trucks and firemen's outfits look like in England in the 60s, but it looked like it came from the previous decade. It could have looked like that.
Yeah, that's from Keystone City Fire Department right there. Keystone Cop.
No, I felt like it was a work instruction demonstration of the fire truck. Turn all the valves. Wheel the ladder.
Yeah, it's like when they had to bring the ladder over. Hey guys, come over here. I can't do this myself. You need 3 other people to move the ladder.
They put it all the way up there. The guy gets up there and reaches for him,
and he leaves, right?
That was one of those right away where you're going, okay, you went up. You're not trying to get away, so why go anywhere? So this movie, it was released in the U.S. I said first in April 15th. It was on a double bill with a movie called Horror House, which starred Frankie Avalon and Jill Hayworth from It. Remember Jill?
Yeah. I remember that. I remember that movie.
I sort of remember that movie. I can't claim.
When you said Frankie Avalon,
but I'm not entirely certain.
Okay. The teenagers gathered.
surfer movie type thing, but it was more.
But I think it was like a more like an old dark house film,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yes. Teenagers gathered in an old mansion are being murdered one by one. The survivors must discover who among them is the killer before he finishes off everybody. Well, thanks for giving that away.
Spoiler, anyone? Yeah.
And then it was so I don't know. It was a at a Michigan theater for some reason in Detroit for the first release. And on November 11th, it was released, a general release on double bill with Count Yorga Vampire.
Oh wow.
That would
have been November 11th, 1970 in the US. So. Not a bad.
That may have been when I saw the poster. That sounds about right. At the Stockton Royal 1 and 2. That theater was great for showing movies that were maybe a step above the drive-in, but not going to play, the larger
in Seattle,
houses that, Stockton, California.
Oh, Stockton, California. I'm sorry.
Or Stockyard, as we used to call it.
I had relatives that lived there, actually. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I hope they enjoyed it more than me.
No,
all you Stocktonians, I still have family there, so I still visit sometimes.
Two other quick connections. Vernon Sewell also directed a movie that we did that was a Joseph pick.
Oh.
The Blood Beast Terror.
Oh.
Much better movie.
He pretty much didn't. I looked through his list of movies, and they're almost all crime mystery thrillers.
Is that the one with the giant moth lady or whatever that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Peter Cushing.
Right.
So they wrote for the big ones.
Yeah, there was another connection I just thought of, but it went away. Oh, Crackstead Lodge. They called it. It was the real name of the building was Grimsdyke House, and it was the former home of William S. Gilbert of Gilbert and Sullivan.
Right.
That was allegedly haunted. But isn't Peter Cushing's name in one of the one of the anthology films, Grimsdyke, that he ends up being an old cadaver.
Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt, yes.
Yeah, Tales from the Crypt, yeah.
Look, it's old man Grimsdyke.
Why didn't they just call it Grimsdyke? I don't know. Okay, I got nothing else to say. You guys, anything?
It was an entertaining little movie. I really did kind of like it. And
Chad, you mentioned at the beginning the pace, and so we've immediately got the opening cult scene, and we have a stabbing death within the first 3 minutes, and by 7 minutes and 40 seconds, I noticed this on my second watch, we're underway. He's already on the way, and we've got all the introduction that we need, and things are happening quickly. So it's entertaining. The pace is, I think, very nice. There's a few slow moments, but there's always something about to happen. So and something puzzling to viewers, maybe intentionally or not so. So there's always something you're wondering about throughout the course of the film too. So I enjoy it. I watched it twice in a week. How bad can it be?
Well, I thought it was a little weird when they first off, he finds the hidden room, the red altar room, I guess. And so apparently they take the time to spray
cobweb it
and cobwebs all over.
And dust it as well. Put dust all over everything. It's like, what Morticia Adams go in there? I mean,
I don't know. But the book that's used to sign
in blood,
take men's souls, sign in blood, and we'll take your soul. It's just sitting in a little shoved under a blanket, a little arm.
Yeah, right.
And it has one of the tropes that I hate in movies where the character sees a red puddle on the floor and they stick their finger in it and go.
Yeah.
This is blood.
It's not
You know, and then
strawberry jam.
I hate that. I mean, if I ran across blood drops on the floor, I could look at it and go, "Hey, that's blood." I don't have to look at it and rub it between my fingers and taste it. Man, do I!
I might put my fingers in it, but I sure as hell wouldn't taste it.
I think
This-
Jeff
He didn't
might
taste it.
remember a trope pet peeve of mine is in horror films would be dream sequences.
Yes,
Yeah.
And we've got a couple of them here.
waking
And
up
it doesn't
to a
have-
dream, I think in particular was
Right,
like
right.
you have a nightmare and then you awake and it turns out you're still in the nightmare.
Yeah.
You remember
Anyway.
that well. The only time I'll forgive that is an American Werewolf in London, because it was the first time I
Yeah.
saw it happen.
Mm.
But then after that, so when I do reviews, they lose some cachet with me if there's. I'll forgive one dream sequence, but if they do two in a modern film, that's a bit much. And what Jeff mentioned, the dreaded double dream sequence of when you think you're awake, or we think they're awake, but they're not. No. Anyway,
Made more
enough of
famous
my
by the
pet peeve.
Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yep,
Yeah.
right.
Well, and speaking of which, I guess when I introduced Joseph, I really didn't introduce you. So we wanted
Really?
to give him credits. I didn't read that introduction. He's a contributing writer to Gruesome magazine
Oh,
and contributing writer to The Scariest Things, When It Was Cool, Horror Fuel, BNS About Movies, and The Good, the Bad, and the Verdict websites. Phantom of the Movies, Videoscope magazine, the Drive-In Asylum zine, and Diabolique magazine.
And
So,
thank you,
a
Jeff.
judge-
judge for the
out
Wreak
there.
Havoc Horror Film Festival every year.
Among other
Which we-
festivals, but you're
We
right.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really have fun with Wreak Havoc. So
Yeah, we're a
Do
bunch
you?
of idiots. Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. I forgot
I never
that
said
part.
that.
Well, you know what? Our schedule's been all screwed up. We didn't record our last episode that long ago, so we don't have any additional feedback. Yeah, no feedback to read. So, folks, hey, give your feedback. The episode on Dr. Satan went live yesterday. Everybody can watch this. It's on YouTube. I would not recommend casting it to your TV. It's probably best watched on a laptop or maybe even a phone.
Under a
That's-
microscope.
Yeah, it's not good on a larger TV.
Yeah, the resolution is not good. I tried casting it to the TV and it was like or playing it on TV and it's just blurred. What did Chris call it? They called that the potato face.
Right. And the subtitles are something that leaves a lot to be desired.
Oh,
so.
that too. So, check that out. But we love comments. Send us comments to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com or just put them in, make a comment to the episode on the Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel. We love them and we try to read all of them.
You don't want me to start making up my own feedback to read on air.
Yeah, probably not. Probably
Yeah,
not.
that would not be a good idea, probably.
All right.
more
Because it would
Chad.
all be. I just couldn't take my eyes off how handsome Chad was.
I love them. Well, I might start putting my own in too and just say, whatever you do, don't stop having Chad read the taglines. This is the best part of the show.
That's the best part.
Shoot.
Why did you have that
fact-
one guy read Chad's lines that one time? That was enough.
I went into a 3-week depression.
All right. Well, every 2 weeks, we focus on a specific film released between 1920 and 1969. Next up is one chosen by me. I've been threatening to do this for a while, and it's time to pull the plug. Bluebeard from 1944.
Okay. All right.
Starring John Carradine, directed by Edgar G. Ulmer, and that is available all over the place. It's on the Classic Horror Movie Channel, the Wicked Horror TV. It's on Amazon Prime, MGM.
Is that why you picked it? Because it's an Ulmer film?
Screambox? No, I picked it. Actually, I picked it because of John Carradine. Because a few episodes ago, I looked up Carradine, and I think we've probably done more episodes with Carradine in it than anybody else, any other single.
Wow.
just because he has so many bit parts all through the years, you know. And then as he gets older, he's in all these cheesy movies. So I wanted to pick one where he was the lead actor and does a good job and has a good director. And I think it's a really good movie. I know Mikey got bored at it a little bit, but
I don't know. I have a soft spot for Frankenstein Island, but my problem.
I'll take any detour necessary to watch an Ulmer film. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah,
very good.
We did one on I don't even remember the name of it now.
Time barriers or something.
Yes, like yes. One of
beyond the time barrier.
Beyond the time barrier. I mean, you did the Black Cat way back when, also.
Yeah, that's a great movie. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
All right, so
Bluebeard, I'm gonna have to try again because the last time I tried watching that, I zonked out.
Prepare to be judged, Jeffrey.
And it's not very long. It's about 70 minutes. So you couldn't watch it, huh? Did you ever watch? You recommended once. This is the other one I keep thinking about doing is Hangover Square.
That's a good one. I like that one. I really enjoy.
Well,
that
I especially want to do that for Chad because there's extensive orchestra pieces played in that piano pieces.
Yeah, I'll be sitting here like this the whole podcast.
Flash forward, fast forward.
Chad, did you like
it? It's hard to call it a horror movie, but it's got one really, really disturbing scene.
Yeah, it's a great performance by Laird Cregar in that as well. Yeah, that one and The Lodger I would recommend.
Yeah. Those are two same directors.
I think Brom directed both of them. John Brom, I believe, was the director. I could be wrong about that.
No, you're right. I think you're right. And it came out like a year 44 and 45. And The Lodger is
back to back. Yeah,
kind of loose Jack the Ripper thing.
No, Laird Cregar was actually up for the role of, I can't remember the character's name, but the role that George Saunders played in Dorian Gray, the portrait. Okay. Yeah, he was up for that role.
Got to sign off here. Joseph has to actually go to work.
Yeah.
So, Joseph, it's a pleasure meeting you, Joseph.
You too, sir. You too, Mikey.
Welcome back.
Thanks,
everybody. Again down the road. Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Hope to see you again.
Thanks, Mikey, Blue Steel, and Taste the Milk of Chocolate, and Chad, as always, buddy. Thank you for all your support.
Is that what you call it?
Say good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.